Hi, my name is Mike Ward. I'm the Global Director of Content at Informa Pharma Insights. I'm here at the Biotech Showcase meeting here in San Francisco, which runs alongside the JP Morgan meeting. It's where the great and the good, the movers and the shakers, the pharma and the biotech industry get together. It's annual basis, and as you can sort of see, there's an awful lot of activity going on. I'm actually joined now by Andrew Mackie, who's the Chief Business Officer at Ergomed, which is a clinical research organization. Now, CROs, you guys help people with their clinical trials. For a lot of the biotech guys, though, that's an expensive business. I mean, they'd like to be able to retain the value, but they can't necessarily, always do it. You guys, though, are running a sort of a model which actually helps them on that. So could you just sort of describe what you're doing?
Of course. So Ergomed has three divisions in it. It has a classical CRO, which just runs clinical trials on behalf of sponsors. We do that on a fee-for-service basis, and obviously from that division we make a profit. We have a second division which is all about drug safety, supporting products that are on the market with their reporting requirements. Again, that's a revenue-generating division. And what we do is we take the profits from those two divisions and plow them into what we call our shared risk or co-development.
Yeah.
And the structure of that is really exactly to help companies, both financially and operationally, develop their products. So we conceived the model thinking of a small VC-backed university spin-out. And so an example of that is we have a deal with De La Florette. It's a company spun out of the Karolinska Institute. And they're VC-backed, and so every euro is extremely important to them. So what we did is we entered into discussions. We figured out what sort of clinical design was going to be most appropriate. And also with this product, it's for sickle cell anemia. It had a very specific geography focus, and we have a presence in the Middle East, so that helped us actually do some feasibility, figure out how to run this study. And what we did is we came up with a budget, and we said, okay, this is going to cost X million to run. And the VCs had a choice. They could either go and raise that money from their LPs, or they could raise some of that money and allow us to contribute to help fund and run the study. And what we do is we receive equity in the company as a reward for our investment. And that study's ongoing, and we're hoping to bring it to proof of concept, after which the VCs will decide if they want to sort of sell the company or take it to the next step. If they take it to the next step, we'll kind of continue in the same pattern, or otherwise we'll be in the same position as other investors.
So you take an equity, or you get an equity stake in the company. Do you also get a share of the program if it's successful?
So in other deals, so we've done some transactions with larger companies. We've got one with Ferrer at the moment. Okay. So, $1 billion revenues every year, a very solid company. Often people don't really understand why they would want to enter into some sort of shared risk relationship with us. But I think the reality of the world we live in is that even the big companies are suffering from P&L constraints due to the patent expiration cliff, and from that they're actually reducing their R&D teams. And so operationally they can't do everything they want to do, and they need to outsource more. So we're there to help them. And then secondly, they're just quite attracted by this idea that Ergomed is more than just a fee-for-service provider, right? That we are actively involved, we have an interest in the product, we have a dedication to make sure the product succeeds. Now, we treat all programs the same, but the concept of skin in the game is definitely there for them. So we have a deal with Ferrer, again, similar idea, phase 2 program, they want to bring it to proof of concept. What they'll do is they will then think about partnering at the end of phase 2. So they've already partnered the Asian rights, they will probably partner the US rights at the end of phase 2, and they'll probably continue developing it for themselves in phase 3. And so our deal with them, Ferrer's private company, so no point in us getting shares in it, so we have a share of revenue. So every euro that Ferrer receives on the commercialization, whether it's royalties from their partners in the US and Asia, or whether it's from direct sales from themselves, we will just get a small share of that, and that's a sort of revenue share agreement. Right.
Okay, so when you're going off and I'm just trying to think, how do you sort of source these deals? Because how do you decide this is a shared risk deal rather than this is a fee for service?
Sure. Okay, well, firstly, we've been doing this for about 10 years. I guess as there are a few parties in the industry who are doing it, but I guess to a certain extent we've probably done more deals than anyone else. So people often approach us with the concept. I find a lot of the initial discussions anyway are quite follow a common path. So we talk to a biotech company or a pharma company saying, do you need help with your trials? And we start that conversation, we start talking about maybe designs and budgets along those trials. And during that discussion, it branches off into two ways. Are they interested in co-development, are they not? So I think in many ways it's led by the counterparty, what sort of relationship do they want? But also we come to conferences like JP Morgan and Bio Europe, where people are much more focused on the partnership model than the service model. So it's easier to find people who are interested in these sorts of structures at these sorts of meetings.
Right. And are you finding it more popular then?
Is the idea more popular? It's been pretty steady. So I guess we assess over 100 potential products every year. And much like every other pharma biotech, we have our triage rates. We sort of go through an iterative process, screen them down. We aim to sign about 2 deals a year.
Right.
So that's
2 shared risk deals.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And so what sort of return are you expecting? Because you sort of say, well, you're putting your profits into this. I mean, this is, I guess, one way you can build your own company and build the value in your own company.
Yeah.
But what are your targets? I mean, apart from 2 deals a year, in terms of an actual return from this?
Well, we have a pretty flexible approach about it. So what we'll do is we'll risk assess each program. We'll decide what our view is on the commercial potential, and we will then model what we need to return from that. Again, if it's equity in the company, it's pretty straightforward, right? Our euro of investment is the same as a euro investment from another investor, so that's pretty clear cut. But when you're talking about royalty-based structures or revenue-based structures, then it's just basically a negotiation.
Okay, so if I'm a biotech company and I think I've got a great idea, right, what boxes do I have to tick to sort of actually get you interested in the first place, and then maybe actually move on to due diligence and even maybe signing a transaction?
Well, fairly key things that we look for initially in the first conversation is, do people have the ability to co-invest? And that's both in terms of operational activities, but also financial activities. So we're not yet in a model where we want to in-license completely, develop, and then out-license. So we're wanting people who are sort of wanting to be involved. So that's one thing. They have to sort of fund their half of the program or whatever the proportion is.
So therefore they have to have this sort of financial wherewithal to do their
Yeah, exactly. We're looking for people with complementary skills, right? We're a clinical-based CRO, so we don't really cover the preclinical, the manufacturing side of things. So we want people who have the expertise and the belief that they can sort of develop the product effectively on that front.
Right. Or at least have partners who can do those things as well.
Absolutely, yes. And in fact, a number of our transactions have tripartite deals structures for that purpose. And then we look at the sort of classic things, what's the IP runway, what's the preclinical evidence, if they have clinical data, did we believe in the study designs? We have a look, we have a due diligence team internally sort of running through all the data. And if we convince ourselves that the data package is solid, that the commercial potential is solid, that they have a suitable IP for the situation, then we go further into discussions.
And is there a sort of a therapeutic area sweet spot for you guys?
So Ergomed has a pretty broad spectrum in terms of therapeutic experience, given that it's been operational for about 20 years. But our deals have been focused on a few core areas. So our oncology, we've run an enormous amount of oncology trials, and so we feel we have a particular expertise in that area. Similarly, in neurology, we did a lot of MS work, a lot of pain work. So we focus on that. And then the company runs a CRO and SMO, site management organization structure. The SMO can help with very difficult trials. So when you're looking at very rare diseases or complicated protocols, then the SMO-CRO combination works nicely. So we also focus a little bit on the rare diseases because these are the ones where that model can work out very well.
Right. And what about you mentioned about the Middle East? For example, with the sickle cell anemia. Yep. Are there any sort of geographic restrictions on what you can do?
No, not really. So we have, we're a relatively small organization in the CRO world. We have about 300 employees. As we said before, we're publicly listed on AIM with a modest market cap. But we have presence in 14 countries, from Asia, Europe, Middle East, and America. So we can run things globally.
Right, okay. Well, Andrew, thanks very much for stopping by and talking to us.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye.